Now, today I've titled the sermon Mom-isms. You guys know what a mom-ism is? I know it's kind of a mouthful. You guys know what one is?
Something mom might say.
Yeah, very good. All right, Keith gets the gold star today. Now, what does your card say? Your bookmark. It's the very first thing it says on it. You guys don't have to read this because I know most of you guys aren't women. It is in English, right?
I am a woman with godly potential.
Very good. I want you guys to keep this in mind throughout the entire sermon. You're going to think, well, I'm not going to repeat that phrase like a zillion times, but the sermon does revolve around that. Each of you ladies, no matter your age, no matter how tall you are, no matter how gray your hair may be, if you are sitting here today, you still have godly potential because God's not done with you yet. Now, we got a little quiz for you. How many, and this doesn't just apply to the ladies, how many of you, everyone in here, how many of you have ever opened your mouth and your mom come flying out?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Some of the things you may have said that make you think, oh my goodness, how did mom get in there? Now, if it's the first time it's ever happened to you, you're going to think, how did that happen? Where did she come from? I promised myself I was never going to be like that woman. And here I am acting just like her. For me, it was one day I was standing in the bathroom and I was shaving, and I looked up and I was like, oh my goodness, when did Dad show up? You know? But for ladies, it happens maybe a little bit differently. Perhaps it was, you said something like, because I said so, that's why. If you keep making that face, it's going to stay that way. How many faces have ever stayed that way? And they never have, but mom still tells you that. Or my favorite, and the one I use often, well, when I was your age. Nobody's ever heard that one from their mom? Oh yeah, that was a popular one. Now, I did hear this one a lot growing up too. If you keep crying, I'm going to give you something to cry about. Yeah, that was a good one. And for you, now this one is specifically for your children. What part of no don't you understand? The proper response is to be quiet. Do not say, well, the end part, or the O part, because then you'll hear this next one. I brought you into this world and I will take you out. I don't care what the other kids are doing, I said no. If all your friends were to jump off a bridge, would you? I hope you have a child just like you. And now this one I put in here just specifically for Mindy. Because I have heard her say this one so often, and I've actually got the pleasure of listening to the next generation of children say it. And what is it, honey?
It's a
not
tool.
a tool. Or it's not a toy, it's a tool. See, because we had this little dude about this big at one point, now he's this big, would run around our house, and if it was a tape measure, or a drill, or a hammer, he would think it was just as cool as a Tonka truck. And somewhere along the line, someone told her that that was not a toy, that it is a tool. Now, I'm sure each and every one of us, and all of you probably have, because I see there's a lot of family, have unique mom-isms and little sayings that have been passed on from generation to generation. And we could probably add to this list and make a list of hundreds of things that mom has said, and now we're guilty of saying too. Do you know why those things stick with us? And there's a lot of other things that stick with us. Do you know that, have you guys ever done something and stopped, oh my goodness, I did that just like mom did it. Or I did it just like dad did it. Something like that might include, in my house, and in the house I grew up in, dishes aren't done until the stove and counters are wiped off. If mom told you to go do dishes, and you did the dishes, and she walked out there, and there were still breadcrumbs on the counter, still stuff sitting on the counter, and the stove wasn't wiped off from supper, guess what would happen? That must mean that you really didn't do dishes, so all the dishes, every piece, every stitch of the dishes would come back out, and then you would stand there. And it didn't matter how much you would say, Mom, but I got Little League practice. Well, I guess you should have done the job right the first time. I'm not saying that ever happened to me a lot. Now, one of my mom-isms still sticks with me is Mindy can say, go get my cell phone. Go grab my wallet. And it'll be in her purse. And I'm 48 this month. And I will still walk over, grab the purse, and carry it to her and set it down. Because to open Mom's purse and pull the wallet out or pull the cell phone out or grab the checkbook or grab the ink pen, that was pretty much signing a death warrant. You might as well just go ahead and assume the position because you are going to get some swats. It's just that simple. And here I am, all these years later, and I still won't open a woman's purse. I don't know what's in there. I don't know what y'all keep in there. I'm afraid to look because Mom passed that trait on. See, each of us have those fond memories, those little mom-isms, those little quirks, if you will, that Mom passed on to us. And you know what those memories and habits are? Those are her legacy. Those are the things that she left us. Those are the things that were ingrained in us, if you will. You know, and it may not be your mom. Maybe you were raised by a stepmom. Maybe it was an aunt. Maybe it was a grandma. Maybe it was a Sunday school teacher. Perhaps it was a school teacher. That those things that you would hear them say have stuck with you, or things that they would hear you do would stick with you. Now, today's passage is found in Titus, chapter 2, verse 3. And it says, older women likewise be reverent in your behavior, not slanderous, nor slaves to too much wine. They are able to teach what is good, and to train the young women to love their husbands and their children, to be self-controlled, to be pure, working at home, kind, submissive to their own husbands, that the word of God may not be reviled. Now, the first thing I want us to notice, when we look at the two women that are involved in this, the two groups of women, the older women and the younger women, what's missing is the familial connection. There is no familial linkage. It doesn't say mothers to daughters. It doesn't say aunts to nieces. It doesn't say stepmoms to stepdaughters. It doesn't say, there's no blood tie there. So what that's saying is that each of the ladies in this church have the ability to help train and bring up the next generation. That also means that the younger ladies can learn from the other ladies as well. It doesn't just have to be Mom. It doesn't just have to be Aunt Wanda. It doesn't just have to be Grandma. So there's no biological limitation to this. So just because you think, I have raised my daughters up, I'm done. I can take my ease and back up and retire. No, that's not what that means. That means there's other ladies in the church and there's other ladies in the community that y'all can pour yourselves into. And what are these older ladies to do? These older ladies are to train and to teach. They have these standards that they live up to. Godly women have standards that are high and far above what the world would teach and what the world would call good. Things like reverence, not slanderers, not drinkers. They're able to teach these younger women because they have a godly character and they have a testimony that is pure and right. The subject matter that they are to teach these younger women, and it's a subject matter that these younger women really need to learn, and that is to love their husbands, love their children. And you would think, well, that should come naturally. Sometimes it's work, and they need help with it. To be self-controlled, to be pure, to be kind. When we read work at home, it doesn't necessarily mean be a stay-at-home mom. It simply means don't be lazy. To be submissive to their own husbands. And I know that's a terrible word. It just simply means to respect your husbands. And so often we hear of wives talk negatively, and we see things like this on the news where women are just running down their family. They're talking about how terrible their kids are, how they're just a drain, how their husbands are nothing but a drain. And that's where they learn, and that's why they should learn to be godly women. Because when Christian women act like that, then the Word of God is reviled. Because people will say, oh, you're a Christian, but yet you don't love your husband and family? I thought God was love. I thought, maybe this Christian thing isn't all that it's cracked up to be. So our testimony and your testimony in the community is so important. It reflects on who the Lord is. It reflects not just on your family. It also reflects on the character of God. And these older ladies, when you are training, don't pass up any opportunities to help these younger women out. These older ladies have walked some miles, and some of y'all had some tough stuff that you went through. And you have developed a strength and a character and a courage that is amazing. And you can pour that into this next generation. But don't pour it into them in a way that you're condemning and criticizing and just complaining all the time. You know, you guys know the attitude I'm talking about. Well, I never. Can you believe that? Don't be negative in your approach. Because when we're negative in our approach toward the next generation, all we create is rebellion and resentment. It makes them want to run away from their biblical roots. It makes them want to just, done with her. Had enough. See, there's a thing in this world, if you will. They're going to do everything they can to you younger ladies to tear you up and get you to ignore these older ladies and their advice. You guys have the responsibility to listen and to hear what they're saying and then to put it into practice. Because for every one of these godly women that you younger ones can learn from, I will guarantee you there's a fistful of ungodly women in the world right now who are doing their level best to teach our daughters how to live worldly, how to live like the devil, if you will. And there's a purpose for that. And that purpose is pretty simple. And we're going to get to that purpose because it's an awesome little plan that the devil has in place here. And it's worked for generations to generation to generation. They're trying to steal that potential. The younger ladies, when you hear that wee small voice in your head saying, you know what, just blow it off. I'm tired of listening to this. Don't want to hear it anymore. And I'm sure each of you ladies with a little snow on the roof there have said the same thing. Man, Mom just don't know nothing. She's never walked a mile in my shoes. That's a lie. It's an absolute lie. And it's trying to get you to ignore that advice. You see, because each time a younger woman ignores the advice of a lady of experience, instead of her going straight toward her potential, she then has to go over here to the school of hard knocks. She has to start learning her lessons the hard way. And they leave their biblical foundations and their biblical roots, and they get over to that school of hard knocks, they're going to get chewed up, and they're going to get spit out, and they're going to get tore up. And it's just that simple. You see, because the world wants to take away your potential. And they take it away when they're teenagers and when they're as young as you girls, to get you to think that your mom's just a crazy old lady that doesn't know what she's talking about. Then they get you to think about how awesome it would be if I just didn't have to listen to her, if I could be out on my own. Because I don't care what she says about this boy. He's cute. He's good looking. He's smart. And Mom's over here saying, he's an idiot. He's no good. He's trash. You better stay away from him. And you're like, but he's beautiful. And I love the bad boy. And then you run off with him. And the next thing you know, you're coming back home to Mom with a little bundle of joy, thinking, oh my goodness, now what do I do? And you know what's going to happen someday? You're going to say, well, I told you no, that's why. It's kind of that circle of life thing. Older ladies, it takes time. It takes patience. It takes love. It takes caring. pour yourself into this next generation of women. And to be quite honest with you, you older ladies, I mean older, I mean any lady that is of childbearing age. I've got 2 unmarried sons. And I really, really would like them to find godly wives. So I need you all to do your job so when they start looking for wives, there's godly women out there. Someone for them. You see, there's this lady in the Old Testament, her name was Naomi, and she was a flawed woman. She ran away from God. When she finally came back, broken and beaten up by the world and where she was at, she changed her name to Mara, which means bitter. She was cranky. She had had enough. But she had influenced Ruth in such a way that Ruth's life turned out amazing. You see, Ruth was a Gentile, a Moabitess, someone from a far-off land. But because of Naomi's testimony, and Naomi pouring herself into Ruth, when you read the genealogy of Christ, you'll find Boaz and Ruth listed in the lineage of King David. And King David, from the lineage on down to Jesus Christ. You see, there was this godly woman named Lois. She's only mentioned once in the Bible. She had a daughter named Eunice, and she poured herself into Eunice. And she gave her all that wisdom, and she gave her all the biblical advice she could. And then Eunice poured it into a young man, her son. And that son's name was Timothy. We have 2 books of the Bible named for him. He became the Apostle Paul's protege and one of the most powerful first century preachers we've ever had. The world, ladies, wants you to go out and rebel because you have the ear and the heart of the next generation. Every baby, every child, man or woman alike, has been held in his mother or her mother's arms, and she has sang to them and cared for them. And it is on her knee that they learn the gospel. So ladies, don't believe the lie that the world's been telling you, that the Bible is a waste, that it just demeans women. To be quite honest, the opposite is very true. Christianity historically has lifted women out of servitude for centuries. So don't believe that lie. Your very future depends on it. Your potential depends on it. Each of you ladies has the potential to shape the future for great things. Whether you do them or you raise the child that ends up doing them. You see, because if you've ever watched a sporting event, who do these star athletes always thank? Thanks, Mom! I know from personal experience, and I am grateful and unbelievably thankful and cannot express enough gratitude that God gave me 2 godly grandmothers. Talk about a blessing. 2 godly grandmothers. And then a godly mom. And then he blessed me with a godly wife. I mean, that's more than any one man deserves, but I'll take it. And I see so many children being raised today who squander their potential, whose mothers have squandered their potential. All for a quick fix. All to have a little fun. All because they didn't want to listen to that old gray-haired lady who didn't know what she was talking about, but who, if they would have spent a little time talking with, had walked more than 1,000 miles in the shoes that she was fixing to walk into. We should always, without a doubt, remember those women in our lives that God had put in our way. Because, man, they're special. And it doesn't matter, like I said, if you're a mom or not. If you're a Sunday school teacher here in this church, boy, I hope you're pouring your godly heritage into these little ones. If you've got a mom and she's poured her godly heritage into you, I hope y'all pick the phone up today, take her out to lunch, tell her thanks. And if you really want to make her smile, make her up some macaroni art and take it to her. Because I don't care how old the mom is, if she's got macaroni art hanging on her refrigerator, she's the happiest woman in the world. Explain that to me. macaroni on it. Matter of fact, Mindy has it hanging in our refrigerator right now. A terribly colored picture. Terrible. But it says on it, "Love you, Grandma Lane." It's the most beautiful thing in the world to her. So today, take a time. Hug your mom. And if your mom's not here, say something that would remind you of her. Keep doing that, I'm going to take you out and make another looks just like you. And if she has gone on to be into heaven, rejoice. And remember her with fondness. Let's pray.